Welcome to Southwest River United Church. This is one point of a 2-point charge in the Margate Pastoral Charge. And Adam is here with me today doing this recording, and he does this recording for us every week here at Southwest River, and he is our official board chair. And Buster is here somewhere. You may see him go in and out of the camera as he wishes. Buster's a French bulldog, and they do as they wish. So we appreciate Adam and Buster for all they do for the church, and glad Adam's giving me some time on a Saturday to do this. So, and I've given Adam, I haven't told him yet, but the extra task, if I get too sappy and sentimental as I go along, he's to throw something at me. There's hymn books in the chairs below where he is. So, here we are, and today, as you are watching this on December 8th is my grandmother's birthday. My grandmother was Harriet Gray Laird, born on December 8th, 1899, and she married my grandfather in 1925. They raised 7 children on their farm in rural PEI on the Lock Road, and I was raised in that same home with her. My grandfather died in 1963. I was born in 1971, and she had the first 2 rooms at the front of the house, her kitchen and living room, and we had our kitchen and living room at the back of the first floor, and all bedrooms were upstairs, and her bedroom was right down the hall from mine. So I was the youngest of all the grandchildren. I think there was 21 or 22 of us, and I was 10 years younger than my siblings. So by the time I was 6 or 7, they were gone out of the house, and I had her pretty well to myself. And that was wonderful. She was a very faithful person, a quiet faith. She was patient. She was fun. She would sit on her couch with her word-find puzzle book. I would have the pen. She would circle, or she would point at where the word was. I would circle it. And I mean, how much more patient could that be? She introduced me to orange floats. She had a sweet tooth that I inherited, and she made the best homemade fudge. There was no microwaves then when she made fudge. It would be the boiling, and then she would put a towel on her lap and beat the fudge, and she would drop a spoonful into a china cup full of cold water, and then she would do the test of that, of the hot liquid in the cold water. I don't know how she did it, but it was delicious, and no one can make it like she did. So from her I learned peace, and I learned patience, and she valued me, and she loved me, and I always knew that. She used to say to me, "What would I do without you?" And she wore hearing aids. And when at that time there was no rechargeable hearing aids, when the battery wore out, it would start to squeal. And she would come to me with the hearing aid in her hand, and I'd hear her coming because it would be squealing. And I would change the battery in that hearing aid for her, and she relied on me for that. So it was a wonderful childhood, having her mostly all to myself. You know how families, big families are. She had 7 children, but you just don't visit as much when you have your own families. And so I had a lot of her time and learned wonderful, quiet strength from her. And a funny thing, I talk about needing a swear jar some days, and she never needed one, so I don't know where I got that trait from. But I think I heard her say shit maybe twice, and she would cover her mouth and giggle immediately after. So that was a big joke, and she certainly wasn't too excited or flappable when, and I don't ever remember seeing her angry. So yeah, wonderful, wonderful woman, and of course I remember her many other days besides her birthday, but certainly on today, her birthday. And I'm wearing my alb today. I was recently gifted this alb from my friend Heather Cameron, and it belonged to her father, the Reverend Randall Cameron. And he served in pastoral charges around PEI and Nova Scotia and New Brunswick. He would stay in a church 5 or 6 years, and very humble man. And he would say, I have gifts to give you, and I have shared them with you. Now, after 5 or 6 years, I'm moving on. Someone else has different gifts, and you need to experience those gifts as well. He and his wife, Jean, did tremendous hours and hours of work at our United Church camp, Camp Abbey, in Augustine Cove. And the camp director's cabin is named after them. It's named the Cameron Cabin for all the years they gave to the camp. Reverend Cameron, one of the stories I remember from Heather talking about him, and I knew him as well. One of the stories she told me about his resilience was his son, his only son, died very tragically in a motorcycle accident. And he had 2 weddings that day, on that Saturday. And he'd already signed the paperwork for those weddings. And he told his family, if I don't do those weddings, it's invalid and they'd have to file for new paperwork. So he was able to bring composure to himself somehow and officiate at those 2 weddings. And I just think that says so much about his strength. And we certainly don't hear of many ministers like that today. So I said to Heather, are you sure that you want to give me that album? Somebody else may use it or want it in your family. And she said, there's no one else, and I want you to have it. So I'm very happy to have it. It's the Advent color of blue, and I'm happy to wear it. And she said to me, I hope his spirit lives on in the seams and the stitches of that album. So, and I hope so too. Wisdom and love and strength. I took a class this summer with the Reverend Tanis, and it was called Indigenous History and Culture, and some of my classmates were in that class with me. And in that class, we learned of the 7 grandfather teachings. And I have to read these because I don't have them memorized. Humility is represented by the wolf. Bravery is represented by the bear. Honesty is represented by the raven. The beaver represents wisdom because he uses his natural gift wisely for his survival. Respect is represented by the buffalo. The eagle represents love because he has the strength to carry all the teachings. And truth is represented by the turtle, as he was there during the creation of the earth, and he carries the teachings of life on his back. Old Turtle carries all the teachings. And Old Turtle is the book I'm sharing with you today. There's a dedication in the front of this book that really sums up the book. The author is Douglas Wood, and he writes, "This story is dedicated to my sons Brian and Eric, and to children of all ages who love turtles and rocks and rivers and other living things." Douglas Wood is described in the back of this book as an accomplished songwriter, musician, and wilderness guide who has written more than 30 books, including several New York Times bestsellers. And I have another one of his books called Old Turtle and the Broken Truth. I've had Old Turtle in my library for a while, and I've used it a couple of times with children's groups. But I wouldn't limit it to saying it's just a children's book. It's so beautifully written with wondering words. Their thoughts will soar to the stars, but their feet will walk on the earth. Beautiful phrases. God is all that we dream of, and all that we seek, all that we come from, and all that we can find. With inclusive language to describe God. She is the life of the world. He is swift and free as the wind. God is gentle and powerful. With descriptions beyond my writing talent, it rumbled loudly like thunder, and it whispered softly like butterfly sneezes. These words are wonderfully supported with watercolor paintings from Cheng Chi Chi. Children so recently with us from their Creator just get it. They just understand. They absorb the words they hear and they turn them into something else. They turn their understanding of what they've heard into creative work on who God is and how we all belong. I have used this book to springboard into creative projects. Once the participants chose a square in a painting of Old Turtle, and they filled it with images and words that the story inspired. And recently here at Southwest River, I invited the whole community of faith to add leaves and pictures to our creation tree that I introduced the first Sunday of creation. And we filled it through the season, and then on the last Sunday of the season of creation, after listening to this book, Old Turtle, the children added to and completed our creation tree. All living things. Douglas Woods' words in Old Turtle show how we're all connected. From little children, grandmothers, community leaders, compassionate preachers, the wisdom of grandfathers, turtles, rocks, and rivers were all reflected and celebrated in this book. I recommend this book to you to share with children, to inspire you in creation time, to share at bedsides in nursing homes and hospitals, to lift your own imaginations and stretch your wonderings, or perhaps to add phrases and images to the way you describe God. This book leads to questions like, who is God? What name do you have for God? Where do you see God? Where does God call you? Old Turtle, a story by Douglas Wood. Thank you for listening.